Welcome back to the Why Mindset Matters podcast. I'm Eslana Loa. I'm an author, speaker, resilience mindset coach. I'm a nurse, a midwife, and a mother of 4. And if this is somehow the first episode of mine that you've found, I do want to start by providing a trigger warning. I do discuss the loss of my teenage daughter Riley to suicide. It is episode 2 of season 2, and I'm so excited to be back. I'm so excited for everything that is coming this season of the podcast and this season of my life. And I'm so excited to be able to share with you the great news that my book is in my hands right now. I ordered my author copy. It is here. It is real. It looks beautiful. And it's called Resilience After Great Loss, Learning to Live and Grieve Simultaneously. And it has been a journey, but it is incredibly rewarding to say that it's done. It's done. It's here. So I ordered the author's copy, came to me on Sunday, and I spent that night reading the book. It took about 5 or 6 hours, and I read it straight to be able to check it over for errors and make sure that it was ready to hit go live on Amazon worldwide. And at the time of recording this, it is likely to be 24 hours, maybe less, away from the link going live. So by the time you're listening to this podcast episode, there's a very good chance that anywhere in the world on Amazon, you can find Resilience After Great Loss by Eslana Loa. And it will be available as an e-publication on Kindle or paperback, which is great. Anyway, it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey. I know I spoke briefly in another episode about the journey of writing the book that I had after I lost Riley. I was writing. I knew that I would write a book. It wasn't really an intentional way of writing. It was more often sleepless nights where I just had to get up and write to get it out of me and to be able to get to some form of rest. And so this had gone on for 2 years. I knew in time I would write a book, but the way that it was kind of coming out of me, I thought, is this something that has to unfold over like 10 years? And I'm going to look back in reflection and be able to write a book about grief and the reality of it. But at the 2-year mark, Mia was going into year 11 and her computer had died. So I was clearing my Mac to be able to gift it to her. And I saw my writing in the trash and I tried to restore it. And the computer said, you cannot do that. It's gone. And I took a deep breath because I have been telling my girls since we lost Riley, I don't want emotional attachment to physical things. Everything can be fixed or replaced. I did not ever want a grief-associated meltdown because they say lost the necklace with her ashes in it. And so I'm sitting there having given my children this advice and having to just take a deep breath and take my own advice. And as I did, I realized that it's all still in me. If I wanted to write it, I could. But as I sat with it, I realized that I wouldn't write it the same way. I had been writing from a place of trauma about the trauma. And that's not how I would. It was that I would write from a place of gratitude about the resilience that I had that had been born of gratitude and had the capacity that I had discovered I had and that I believe everybody has to be able to rebuild myself and do better than just survive, learn how to thrive. And as I learned how to live and grieve simultaneously and that it didn't need to be one or the other, that the joy, peace, contentment could reside in the same parts of my heart and soul as do sadness and grief, and that they don't negate or cancel out each other. If anything, they exist paradoxically because of each other, because you can't love as much and as deeply as I did, but not experience grief and sadness at the absence of the things or the people that you loved and have now lost. And so I started reflecting because in the first year and a half especially, anytime people would hear me talk about how she had died, what we had been through, they would say with almost the same scripting, male, female, almost exactly the same every single time. How the fuck are you still standing? How are you surviving? I couldn't, I wouldn't. And when you hear those words on repeat enough, it makes you start to question, what am I doing? What am I doing that has people believe that they couldn't do it? Because I'm not special. And that's the great news. I'm not special. I don't have magic tricks up my sleeve. That means I have access to something you don't. And so I started to evaluate, what am I doing? And unpacking that. And the beauty of it was that there were things that I had, practices, mindset things that I had done since long before Riley that happened to serve as really valuable tools in navigating unimaginable grief and loss and trauma in a way that saw me rebuild my life and in turn and in time describe myself as the happiest I've ever been, which on paper doesn't make sense to a lot of people because of what I've been through, because of the environmental factors of how my trauma has played out. And I think that us as a culture and society tends to fall into this trap of like martyrdom to grief, in that if you experience significant loss, then the trade-off or the agreement is that you will be the martyr of grief that serves out the rest of your existence in this essentially really dark place. And if that was the case, if that was the reality, that you get to love and have passion and adventure, but when those things are gone, you're going to be imprisoned by this darkness, that means there isn't really any benefit to you existing anymore. Who would sign up to love or have passion or adventure? The one thing that I realized is that that is our contractual agreement. We get to be here. My soul gets to exist in this life, in this body. And the agreement that I've made is that I get to have love and passion and adventure, but that I will feel sadness and grief at the absence of the things or the people that I loved and admired. And that if I realize that the presence of the sadness and grief doesn't negate the capacity I have for peace and joy, then I can actually rebuild myself. And I get that what happened with Riley is inconceivable. We cannot even imagine it. There's no part of me that was supposed to imagine losing a child, let alone in such a horrific way. But if we can't even imagine, experience it, there's no capacity that we have to be able to imagine rebuilding ourselves in the aftermath of that, let alone describing ourselves as the happiest we've ever been. So I don't take offense or have any negative feeling to this whole, it's inconceivable, I couldn't do it. I get it. I get it. I probably would have chosen the same words if I was the person listening to the story rather than the one who was living it. But the reality is, like I said, I'm not special. What I talk about in the book, we all have the capacity for, and the tools and things that I have done or implemented are so simple, it's actually ridiculous. And it's beautiful because it means that whether you're someone who is standing in the rubble of a life you no longer even recognize, whether you are somebody who is navigating grief or endings that you didn't see coming, and whether it's the loss of someone you had warning through illness or you had no warning because it was suicide or a traumatic event or whatever it is, regardless of the environmental factors of what your grief, sadness, loss, challenges, and trauma looks like, this book is for you. 100% this book can help you. And if you are somebody who's sitting there going, yeah, that's really cool, but my life's okay. Like, I'm doing good and I haven't had any shitty, I have nothing to complain about. Amazing. Please read this book, because the reality is I believe that life in one way or another will come for us. And I don't mean for that to sound dark or negative. I mean that you have people in your life that you love. You have people that you care about. And even if statistically you got through this life scot-free, you had no accidents or traumas or anything disrupt your life by taking someone from you or that was close to you or whatever, even if you did all of that. And let's say you had amazing parents that didn't traumatize you or abuse you and you've had this incredible life. Your parents aren't supposed to outlive you. At some point, we will lose our parents. And if you've had these incredible parents, then there will be grief and sadness associated with the loss of the incredible parents. And particularly if they leave your life at a point where your children aren't yet grown up, because then there's an added layer of, now I feel sad for my kids that they won't get to know how amazing you were to me at the age that they are. And there's all of these ways. So I never mean to be putting a negative take on life. I'm putting more of a realistic view or lens over it all and going that in one way or another, we will experience loss. For me, in the aftermath of losing Riley, I went through an added layer of grief when I realized that I needed to walk away from my nursing and midwifery career because it wasn't serving me anymore. It was anxiety inducing. I was losing sleep over it. This was a part of my life I was convinced was going to last until I wasn't even really going to retire. I was just going to do it forever was what I thought. And I had worked so hard to get both of those degrees, and it had taken me many years, and it was something that I wanted to be a part of my life. And here I was having to go, well, it doesn't actually serve you, darling. If you're biting your nails down to the cuticle and you're losing sleep in anticipation of possibly having to go to the hospital setting because of the effects of your trauma, not because you're unable to do the job or the role or the responsibility around it, it's more of a, if I take a step back and use a wider lens to look at my health as a whole, and I get out of the trap of thinking that health means physical health and that I can keep functioning or keep moving, because my health as a whole definitely involves my mental health and well-being. And if my mental health and well-being is suffering because of an environment I am putting myself in, I have to weigh up, is this environment worth putting myself into? Whatever that environment is. And for me, I had to have the very confronting realizations that this doesn't serve you. It doesn't only not serve you, it's robbing you of joy by bringing anxiety to the forefront of your life. It's robbing you of joy by robbing you of sleep, because we need sleep to be able to function, let alone be happy and joyful. And so it was having the courage to realize that, well, I was going to need to close the door on this chapter that I thought was going to last longer. So yeah, I don't know what your grief, loss, trauma, challenges will look like. I don't know what the environmental aspects of that will entail, but I'm here to tell you that regardless of how it looks, what it involves, and how it plays out, it's not the environmental factors that matter as much as it is the capacity it has to harm us, and then the capacity we have to bring the courage to that and go, does this serve me? And what am I going to do about it? And then to recognize the ways that the loss of something we thought would be here for longer or last longer or be more or whatever it is having a negative effect on me. What am I going to do about it? Because I don't want to live in martyrdom to grief's existence, because grief isn't leaving. The grief associated with the loss of my daughter is not going to go anywhere. I have learnt to live in a way that allows it to become a part of me and form this scar that essentially I carry with me into my future as a reminder of the love that was and still is, not as something that totally drives my journey and in doing so causes me to harm other people. And that's the other thing that I've been reflecting on, how we fall into the trap of justifying things by saying, oh, hurt people hurt people. How about we don't? How about we don't allow that narrative? Because by saying that hurt people, what we're doing is enabling bullying. If your pain is causing you to cause pain to somebody else, then that's a very good sign that you need to go and get some help. And so that is a lot about what the book is about and how you can rebuild yourself in the aftermath of unimaginable loss. And I know that if I had just said, oh, resilience after great loss, if here are some tools, here are some things that you can do and it's suitable for anybody, I know that there's a good portion of people that would have been like, bitch, please, you don't know what I've been through or you don't know what I'm going through. And so the reason that I speak about Riley's death or how we lost her was to give weight to that. Not to necessarily bring too much emphasis to the trauma of it or the way that it played out, but to be able to just say, I do know what I'm talking about. I have clawed my way from out of the depths of hell, and in doing so, been able to rebuild myself in a way that where I do define myself as the happiest I've ever been. And I'm so grateful that the path that I'm on in life allows me to find my voice and share this with people and highlight the fact that I'm not special, and that no matter what you're going through, no matter where you've been, no matter what is maybe coming for you, you've got this. You've 100% got this. So yes, it's called Resilience After Great Loss, and I had put it out to beta readers, which means sending the manuscript to a handful of people to get them to read through it and give their feedback. And one of the people that I had asked to read the book was a beautiful soul called Maddie, who's the founder and managing director of a service here in Australia called Believe in You. It's a psychology service that provide therapy appointments via Zoom to anyone and anywhere. And I happened to really respect her professionally, so I asked her if she would consider reading the book, which she did. And she came back to me with this beautiful feedback about how she truly believes that everybody should read this book. And I asked her if she would consider writing the foreword. So I just want to share with you what she wrote, because I think it sums up really well and beautifully what the book is about and the intention behind it. Maddie wrote, "Grief is one of the few human experiences that unites us all. It does not only arrive with death. We grieve the end of relationships, the loss of health, the closing of chapters we once thought would last forever. Whether it comes suddenly or after a long goodbye, loss reshapes the way we see the world and ourselves. Yet for most of us, we are not taught how to carry it. We are told to move on, stay strong, or that it will get easier. But those who have lived with loss learn quickly. It does not simply get easier, no matter how much time passes. Instead, we learn how to live with it, how to weave grief into our days, allowing it to exist alongside love, joy, and even hope." That is why this book matters. Resilience After Great Loss is not simply about survival. It's about the extraordinary courage to live and grieve at the same time. As Lana writes from a place few dare to go, with raw truth, tenderness, and unwavering love. Her words do not offer quick fixes or simple reassurances, but instead gently remind us that grief is different for everyone. There is no single path through it, and that grief and joy can coexist in the same heart. What you hold in your hands is more than a book. It is a guide, a companion, and a testament to our ability to bend without breaking. Whether you are walking through the darkness of loss right now or gently preparing yourself for life's storms, you will find in these pages both comfort and courage. As you read, may you discover what Islana so beautifully embodies, that the presence of grief does not erase joy, that love does not end with loss, and that resilience is not about forgetting, but about remembering with grace. Because grief never leaves us. What changes is our ability to live fully while carrying it. Be gentle with yourself and remember that grief brings up all forms of emotions. Sometimes you may even feel lost, and that too is part of learning to live with loss. I'm so grateful to have found my voice, to have had the courage to get uncomfortable, whether the discomfort was in writing or in learning how to even put a book together, in all of the challenges that came with the journey to becoming a self-publishing author, to figuring out I didn't have the money for an editor, so now I'm going to have to learn what that entails, and trying to format my own book and all of the things. It's been quite a journey. There's so much more that goes into bringing a book to life than just knowing what to write or how to write it. And it has been something that has helped me grow as an individual and as a parent, and helped me reach a place of, I guess, self-love and admiration and feeling proud of myself for how far I've come. I got the author's copy of the book 2 days ago, and when it came out, I read the whole thing. I had to. And it was a lot. There was a few tears, which is inevitable because it's quite a story. It is a really beautiful story, what I've done with my grief and loss and trauma. But a lot of the tears that came were tears of empathy and compassion for that previous version of myself that was so convinced that I wouldn't survive this. For what felt like the longest time, I would say to my ex-husband, I'm just not convinced that I'm going to survive. I feel like I'm dying a slow death of a broken heart, only to wake up the next day and do it all again. And I was so convinced it was going to destroy me. But I'm very grateful that it didn't. I'm so grateful to be here today, to be sharing this journey, to be able to find my voice. And I'm really excited to be able to also let you know that I'm going to start sharing interviews on the podcast. So I've got my first one coming next week, which is exciting. It's just all happening. I'm co-authoring another book, which I'll talk about in another episode. But I also wanted to discuss today that I have an upcoming event. I know that I have discussed in a previous episode that I had wanted to have a celebration of life that's not necessitated by death, and that the acknowledgement that when we lose someone, we have a celebration of life, which is amazing and beautiful, but it as an attempt to transmute or translate all of this love and admiration and respect we have for this person who's no longer here. And essentially, we can't, they're gone. And why do we not do more of this when they're still here? Why do we not show and tell and translate to each other exactly what people mean to us and how much we love them and how much we respect or admire them? And in the aftermath of losing Riley, I had a number of particularly male friends come to me and open up about how much they were struggling, and how these beautiful men, business owners, family men, just like the kindest people and the most fun to be around, telling you that they believe that their friends or loved ones would be better off if they weren't here. And I'm looking at these men going, how is it this beautiful being thinks that somehow, he's standing here with his hand on the doorknob to life, considering exiting this life, and thinks that anyone would be better off if he was gone. And it breaks my heart that so many people every single day struggle with their mental health in a way that has them convinced that somehow someone or they would be better off if they left this life. And how many people then have to have a celebration of life, and their grief is overshadowed by this guilt and regret that we didn't let them know, oh, how could I have translated more to you while you were in this life, how much you meant to me. And so I want to have an event that hopefully takes off and is an annual event on the Gold Coast, a celebration of life, not necessitated by death, where we give people their flowers while they're still here to smell them. And obviously I've written my book, so I want to have a book launch, and I decided that on the 29th of November I'm going to have an event, a celebration of life. It will serve as my book launch, but I want to make it less about the book and more about how can we raise much needed funds. And this year the proceeds of the fundraiser will go to Movember, because before I lost Riley, I had no idea that 9 people in this country every day take their life, and 6 of them are men, which I would believe because I've worked in the men's mental health space for a number of years. And I saw a post there recently that said globally 60 men every hour take their life. It is horrific and it breaks my heart. And I really feel quite passionately about having this incredible family-friendly event, live music, jumping castle, face painting, hit a golf ball, have a beer, there's food trucks, the whole lot in Tallebudgera on the Gold Coast. So essentially why I'm mentioning on the podcast, if you or someone you know is a business owner that would consider sponsoring the event, potentially donating via the link to Movember, or can offer something, whether it is goods or services, towards the prize pool, because the raffles and auctions that happen on the day, the proceeds of that will go to Movember to help raise much needed funds, as I said, for men's mental health and suicide prevention. So I'm hoping that this event actually takes off and we turn it into a festival type thing that happens annually, that we can do a fundraiser and the proceeds will go to a different charity each year. But I'm very, very excited for everything that is happening. I'm grateful to be able to share the news of my book with you and the upcoming event. If you're interested in sponsoring or donating, please reach out to me. You can follow me on Instagram at Eslana Loa or Resilience Mindset Coach. I'm Eslana Loa. Thank you so much for listening. And I very much look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Why Mindset Matters. Have an amazing week.